It's not money that makes the business. It's the desire to make the business. And I buy an espresso machine, hook it up to my washing machine, and turn my mudroom into the cutest little coffee shop you could imagine.
Which is not legal on any level. So this is what I love about you, is that you don't ask for permission.
No.
You just ask for forgiveness.
And so I think a lot of what you see is a woman who really has no fear. And fear is a protector, and I know that.
Spirituality and capitalism belong together. Those thoughts, those feelings, that comes from something bigger than I am. And together I believe we can all grow. That's how we're going to change the world. That's how we're going to change the planet.
Welcome, Kathie. Really happy to have you here on The Spiritual Capitalist. And the reason being is because you are truly a spiritual capitalist. You've taught me so many things in such a short period of time. And it made so much sense to me to be able to have you here so that you could share your wisdom and your stories and your experiences, because I get the opportunity because I come to your coffee shop / rock shop, which we're going to get into in a second. But for me, it's not just about coffee. It's not just about rocks. It's all the stories and all the experiences you've had that I think entrepreneurs and people that are on their journey, either that are currently an entrepreneur or someone's looking to be an entrepreneur like yourself, which it's funny, you sometimes don't even consider yourself to be this.
That's right.
You being a wisdom holder and a culture holder and somebody that cultivates community better than anybody I've ever seen in my life. I thought, hey, there's no better way than for me to learn and to teach our viewers and our listeners about what you've been up to for a long period of time here in the Salt Lake City area, about creating culture and about creating community and really about cultivating a place where people feel safe.
This is a privilege. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you.
I love it. I'm so excited. And, there's been a lot of people that have asked you to, I think a lot of people see the same thing I see in you. And it's like, so let me just kind of paint an image for people what this would look like. So imagine this. You're walking in Salt Lake City. This is how I met you. I'm walking in Salt Lake City. I'm looking for a cup of coffee. And yet, instead of finding a cup of coffee, I see a little tiny shop that's in a place in Old Greek Town that has rocks. And when I say rocks, I mean like beautiful gems and stones and crystals and just all kinds of different colors. But if you think about would I ever, like from a business perspective, would I ever have a rock shop and a coffee shop at the same place? If someone was to come to me and say, hey, this is something I think you should do, I would look at them like they're crazy. Like it doesn't make any sense to me. But when you walk in, I think the magic of this place is you. The magic is the heart. The magic is what you've put into this. But this isn't your first business. You've had many businesses. But I just want to kind of paint that picture. Not to mention, is it not the best coffee in town, period? So she has an amazing product and she's worked a long time to cultivate that product. Like community. Like I watch that shop and I watch people come in and you know everybody's name, you know their stories, you know where they've come from. You provide this energy to people that is nothing but love. And everybody I know that walks in there, that's why I bring people there, is they feel accepted and they feel seen and they feel heard. And so we take this little place that is a coffee shop and the rock shop, and all of a sudden we almost create temples out of this, or we create communities out of this, and we create a gathering place where I feel like we're losing so much of that. And I didn't even know those places existed anymore, really. Not like it does there. So I want to kind of take a step back, and I want to hear like how this whole thing happens, like how this whole thing starts. But I don't even want to start from the coffee shop. I want to look at all of the different things that we can learn from you about your journey and about where you came from, because you've shared a lot of stories with me and a lot of really beautiful stories. You have grandkids, you have daughters, you've created such a beautiful life for yourself. And I wonder how many of these stories, I wonder how many of these experiences do they really know? And so not only this is about our listeners, but this is so that you can share your story with so many people that want to know more about you. So tell me a little bit about where were you raised? Like how's this whole story start?
Oh, thank you. It is a privilege to be here and to just think while you're talking. And that was such a beautiful picture that you painted. I was wondering who you were talking about for a moment. It's this is a lifelong thing going on in my head. I remember being 4 years old and walking down a driveway. And it was one of those moments when you know you're being left, but there's something straight ahead of you to go to. I remember sleeping in a little windowsill that night, and the snow was coming down in Connecticut. And I can remember dreaming. I was such a dreamer as a child, and I didn't understand my mind so much because I was always the one looking out the window, always seeing something that looked really pretty or something that was making me very curious. And so I just jumped through a lot of years. I graduated from high school. While I was in high school, I bought an MG Midget. I worked as a server at a place called the Spaghetti Store in Louisiana.
In Louisiana.
Yeah.
But before that, though, Kathie, when we go back, I think this is really important about this, and I think you glossed over this. When you say that you saw this car leaving, right, you weren't exactly, and if you don't mind, I mean, you didn't exactly have this, like, all stories are beautiful, and all stories get us to where we are in life. It's like, it's kind of like, where did we come from and how did it start? Like, you kind of had a rougher upbringing, you know, we just skipped from there to all of a sudden to high school, but it wasn't easy.
No, it wasn't. There were, as a matter of fact, when I was graduating from high school, I found out that there was a cum file, and that was my folder that followed me wherever I went to school. So I went from Connecticut to Virginia to California to Louisiana to Florida. I mean, I was all over the place. And I can remember walking down that driveway holding my two brothers' hands, Matt and Mike. They're twin brothers that are older than I am. My mother was 17 years old when I was born. She was 15 years old when her set of twins was born.
Wow.
She was 21 years old when her youngest child was born. So here's a woman with 5 children at the age of 21 from Harlan County, Kentucky, a coal miner's daughter, a true coal miner's daughter. And I had a grandmother who took on all 5 of us at the age of 50. And I have to ask myself, what was I doing at the age of 50? Would I have taken on 5 small children? I'm not sure.
That's a
there's
fair answer.
a story in itself. And it's one that I've never really felt a lot of gratitude for until maybe the last few years of my life, thinking about her and taking us on. And it wasn't fun. She wasn't a happy lady all the time. And we moved around constantly and were in other people's homes. We were split up, as children, we were split up from each other many times throughout our childhood. But maybe I skip over a lot of that being in California in the 4th grade and not being liked. My hair wasn't brushed. I was wearing boys' shoes, you know, and then, so I do kind of gloss over all that. Moving from California when I was 12 years old, from Orange County, California, to Greenwood, Louisiana, where I can still see the sign above the laundromat, blacks use the back door.
Whoa.
This is crazy. And that was in the 60s. But I witnessed that. And it's never left me because it wasn't like that in California. In California, I was the president of the Rolling Stones fan club at age 11. And, you know, going to school and going to a junior high school where blacks and whites were all together and everyone was fighting, and it was a scary time. But having moved when I was 12 to Greenwood, Louisiana, and trying to figure out, what am I doing? I can remember the Vietnam War was going on, and I was very much aware of it in California. But when I got to Louisiana, the kids that I was going to school with didn't even know what a war was. I tried to hold a sit-in at the very back of the school playground on the fence, and nobody knew what I was talking about. Some of them followed me. We all got in trouble. I was asked to leave the school because I was wearing a miniskirt.
You've always been a leader.
Yeah, you and appreciating followers especially, because that's always the way things get done. But I had a best friend in Louisiana who was from the South, had that Southern accent, and she would say yes, ma'am, Kathie. I could not get those words out of my mouth. So I was constantly in trouble because I wouldn't say yes, ma'am. By the way, I was 5'10" when I was 12 years old.
5'10",
and so
12.
I was pretty tall girl.
Yeah. No, you said something a second ago that's really powerful, and that is that you said that you always have appreciated the followers because that's how things get done.
Yes.
That is, I watch you lead. Like I watch you lead all the time. And I watch you, I wouldn't say lead from a perspective of anything but inspiration, and people want to get behind you because of what you're about. And it sounds like this was something that you learned from such an early age in your life. I mean, you just talked about having a sit-in in elementary school.
Yeah.
I mean,
Junior high school, that's Shreveport, Louisiana. That's amazing, isn't it?
Junior high, okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay.
Junior high. Yeah, there is something about that I've always loved. And I've always considered myself a follower because my personality, I tend to, wherever I am, I want to be in that place. And so I kind of melt into what's around me. And I never realized that till I was about 25, that I liked being a follower, even though in my heart I knew that I was sort of the one moving forward or getting the idea or let's play this game or that game or asking my brothers and my sister to do something and getting them to do it as the middle child, But that's interesting. The thought comes to me that as a high school student, I never felt like anybody was watching over me. I was alone. I could do whatever I wanted. I got a job. I went to work, got an apartment, sold my blood to pay the rent, and it worked. And I realized at an early age that it wasn't that I would be able to accomplish anything I wanted to do, that I didn't need someone to tell me what to do. And that's not a very good thing when you're a sophomore in high school, thinking you're in charge and you can make things happen. But what's amazing is that's the way it happened. I did get an apartment. I did get a job. I did leave the day after high school, after graduation. And where was I going? I didn't even know. And so I think a lot of what you see is a woman who really has no fear. And fear is a protector, and I know that. But for some reason, I manage to do the things that I want to do, knowing that it will be successful if I will do my best and if I will have integrity. Everything has to be straight up, or it will not work. It will fall apart.
Yeah, I've seen that in everything you do. In everything you do, the way you take care of the community, the people that have little, how you take care of them, the homeless, how you feed them soup. I mean, you truly, in my opinion, are like you radiate what it means to me to be like a spiritual capitalist, to like how you take care of your community, how you lift people up. I watch you do it all the time, every day. No one's looking. You're always doing it.
Oh, thank you, Dalton.
And you've always been doing it. You've been doing it since junior high. You were doing it before then. The fascinating things about you, though, is like how you got involved for me in business, right? Because that's what we're talking about here is capitalism, right?
Yeah.
And so you've had some really interesting businesses. You started, so what I understand is that you met your ex-husband, right? And he was a musician.
Yes.
How old are you at this time?
I was 19.
19.
19.
And you end up following the band.
Yeah, we went everywhere on the road. And the name of their band was Biscayne Bay, which there were several bands, but Biscayne Bay really stands out because we traveled. I had an electric fry pan. I could make anybody cookies or sandwiches after a gig. I was the only woman that was with the band traveling. And it was, that's really interesting because the word that comes to my mind is home. It doesn't matter where it is. That's always what I've been searching for. I've home, that feeling of home, of being home, of being protected, being warm. Are you cozy? You know? And so I think even when I met Mike and we ran off to Lexington, we got married, we traveled on the road more and more, found out I was pregnant with Autumn, super excited. Moved to Florida, settled down, and just started living a different life completely. But while we were on the road, I had so many amazing experiences, like Mormon missionaries coming up to me and asking me if I knew about the church and listening to them. Meeting women making turtle soup on their kitchen tables out of giant turtles. I mean, it's been a life of absolute wonder and curiosity. And it seems like everywhere I went, I was always trying to figure out, what shall I do to make money? How does this work in my life? If I can sell my blood to pay rent, there's got to be a better way. And I found it. You know, I found it. And traveled to New Orleans and found one of those little, what do you call them, not a house on wheels, but it wasn't like a trailer, but it was like a shed on wheels.
Okay.
You know, people selling rice pudding out of a little cabin on wheels. I thought, wow, they're making money. I want to do that. Ended up working at Court of Two Sisters, peeling carrots between two young men that had been fired from a famous restaurant in California, a woman named Alice Waters. I didn't even know about her. I didn't know what these guys were talking about, but they're smoking cigarettes and doing LSD on the line, and I'm standing in between them, and they're making sure I'm peeling those carrots. And kind of just
experience,
yeah.
LSD and peeling carrots.
Yeah.
That's not one I would think would come out of anyone's mouth, but here we are.
Especially on the line working, you know.
With a knife.
But it's so amazing to me that I got to listen to those men, and I realized that I loved what they were doing and that I wanted to do food. I wasn't sure how to do it. It seems like no one was cooking dinner when I was in high school. I don't know how I was fed. But I knew that I wanted to do that, and I love the stories of this woman who's got goats and she's making cheese, and this is fascinating to me. And so off to Florida, and even the way I'm talking, it's all over the place. That's my life. It has been all over the place, and I always dreamed about having a little shop somewhere, doing something. I didn't even know what. There was a time when I thought, well, I could sew. I knew how to sew. Maybe I could start a business sewing. I probably had that idea when I was 12.
But you've always had this concept of just starting businesses.
Yeah.
I mean, you travel. You've lived all over. I mean, you've traveled everywhere, all over the planet, really, and living in all these different places and having these different experiences. And you always kind of come back in some form or another to business, right?
Yeah, it's true.
And eventually, throughout, I mean, this could be a really long episode if we chose it to be, because you have so many experiences and so many stories. One other thing I want to kind of hone in on a little bit, though. So after a while, you and Mike go your separate ways, and you end up here in Utah, right? So you end up here in Utah. From understanding, you were a convert of the LDS Church, and eventually you go your separate ways from that as well, which
That's right.
A lot of people in Utah tend to either stay that way or go another direction. But you get here and you start opening up these businesses.
Do you know that I have to laugh because when I was married, I was always dreaming of doing the businesses. As soon as I was divorced, right away, I decided I was going to do Midlife Genesis. Midlife Genesis was a story with Keith Clearwater, who owned Gold's Gym at the time.
Oh, okay.
And I would start working out, and I learned as much as I could about the equipment, the clothes. I'm losing weight. I'm meditating, but I didn't even know I was really meditating when I'd go there. And before I knew it, he's like, I want you to teach at my gym. And I thought, okay, I'm going to call it Midlife Genesis for women who are 40, fat, and frustrated. And sure enough, he got me on a little radio show. I talked about it. I had 10 clients.
What year is this?
And I think it was 1999. And then all of a sudden I want coffee. And I buy an espresso machine, hook it up to my washing machine, and turn my mudroom into the cutest little coffee shop you could imagine.
So let's paint a little story here, Kathie.
Yeah.
So here you are. I believe you're in Provo at this time,
That's
correct?
right.
Because
That's
we've
right.
talked so much. I know a lot of your stories, so I'm pulling this in a little bit. But here you are. You're in Provo, which is a little tiny town, which is a very LDS town.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's temples and, so there's Mormon temples and there's BYU, which is this massive college that is ran pretty much by the Mormons. Very conservative area. And here is you deciding that you want coffee. You take your house, your mudroom in your house, which is not legal on any level.
And I didn't know that was not
I know
legal.
you didn't. That's what so this is what I love about you is that you just you don't ask for permission.
No.
You just ask for forgiveness.
That's right.
And this
Always.
I know this about you from every story you tell me about. So here you are. You decide that, hey, listen, I'm going to put this little espresso machine in.
Hook it up to the washing machine. Just hook that hose up.
Exactly.
Turn the water on and start making lattes.
And so you get a little open sign.
Yeah.
And you start making
A
open.
little coffee sign and pull that little string.
At this time, you've got all 4 daughters, is that correct?
All 4 of my daughters. My oldest is 16. I have 4 daughters. They were born within 5 years. Autumn was 12. Autumn was 16. Amy was 15. Mary was 13. And Kelly was 12 at the time. And we had an espresso machine. And we all learned how to use it. And we made coffees.
So what I love about this too is that here you are. So here Kathie is. She doesn't have any experience really in business. She doesn't really know what she's doing. She's now decided after that she had gotten a divorce and she's like, okay, I'm going to be independent. I'm going to have my own business. I had been cooking on the road for the band for a long period of time. I'm getting out of the thumb of my husband and I'm going to be independent and do these things. But now I have 4 daughters that I have to feed. So I'm going to create I'm going to start teaching fitness classes. And then you're like, you know what? I really want some coffee. Like this is really who you are. I want some coffee. And so you follow like these little tea leaves, as I would call them. Like you listen, you're very intuitive to what's going on. I've noticed this about you. And so you follow this inner voice. We've talked about this a lot. Once you follow this inner voice, you decide to get the coffee machine. Now all of a sudden you've got all your daughters and they're like, hey, we need to make some money. You're like, great, go turn on the open sign and start making coffee.
Right.
Like you teach these women at a very young age, or girls at that time, at a very young age to be self-independent, to take no excuses, to not worry about where you come from, not to worry about your education, not to worry about anything except just go do it.
Yeah. Here we are right now. This is the moment. That has been my attitude. We're here. Let's be here. What are we going to do next?
And then,
And then
then basically now you've got all, what I also love that Kathie has shared with me too, is you have all your daughters and you want to teach them how to be independent. So you basically you can tell the listeners and viewers about this, and that is about how you would sit them at the dinner table. Like this is so beautiful to me.
we had this wonderful table, and I would sit down with the girls on Friday after school, and we'd have a stack of bills or a stack of mail, and we would all sit down in a row at the table, and somebody would open the envelope, somebody would pull it out, find out what needed to be paid. Somebody had the checkbook, exactly how much. I would sign the checks. They would wrap it up. They would do and lick that seal.
So they were very clear on
so they knew
what
what
it
was
cost
coming
for
in.
everything. They knew the value of $1. They understood there's no entitlement here. They understood like what it takes to run a business. I mean, you're teaching them life skills that they're not going to get at a college. They're not going to get at a high school. They're not going to get at any school except for the school of life.
Yeah.
And you were a hell of a teacher at that. So
Do you know, I wonder, I think my daughters and I are so close, and we were always worked together on things. It seemed like right up until Autumn was leaving to go up to the University of Utah, we were always working together on things. They were getting little jobs. My daughter Kelly had a babysitting job. What she did, I think she was in the 3rd or 4th grade. There's a few downsides to teaching these young women to be independent.
of course.
And where I worked was 3 blocks from our home, so we could walk. But occasionally I'd have the car. Well, I get a call. I'm in my office at their school working as the assistant headmaster at Meridian School in Provo. I get a call, and it's the police saying, do you know where your daughter Kelly is? She picked up her little babysitter kids, put them in the car, and drove them 3 blocks to the house. And the police see this little kid. I don't know how she even could see over the windshield. And she had gone through the intersection at Center Street and 9th South in Provo.
Wow.
Yeah, and drove those little kids right up into the driveway so she could babysit them. That was her job, to get them to the house on time.
Man.
And that was pretty crazy. I mean, there have been several things that maybe a little more fear would have helped us a little bit. But I look back now and think everybody was fine, and we managed. And
They all got their toes and their fingers, and they're healthy.
That's right. And they're wonderful, wonderful, wonderful women.
Yeah, you do have
They've grown into wonderful women.
You do have some really amazing daughters, that's for sure. So eventually you get in trouble for running the coffee shop.
That's right, I do. And I didn't know. I mean, I've forgotten the officer's name that pulled in and said, do you have a business license? And I said, do I have to have a business license? I didn't know.
Again,
I didn't know.
you have no idea. Like, there's
I just
none.
didn't know.
I mean, you just gotta. If you put yourself in the position, like, I think it's really difficult for like listeners being like, "Oh, wait a minute, like, what do you mean you didn't know?" Well, there's no internet. You don't have any education behind you as far as what you should do and not do, and so you're just doing what you have to do because this is what you know, or it's at least what what you believe is the right thing to do. You're not doing anything malice. You just simply didn't know, and so I just think it's a funny story. So you end up leaving Provo.
Right.
And you do some things here in Salt Lake City that's well known. Like, I mean, I see people still know about it. You decide to open up a restaurant. And this story to me is one that it's incredible. Again, no fear. You don't know what you don't know. You have a lot of naivety behind you, which is also beautiful in certain aspects. So what happens? So you're here in Salt Lake City and you decide, I'm going to open up another business.
Well, in 2003, I had been living on the Navajo reservation and decided to move to Salt Lake. I get up to Salt Lake and my daughter Autumn said, Mom, you've got to see this new bakery in town. You're going to love it. They have great coffee. I go over there. I love it. Avenues Bakery. It's beautiful. South Temple. My daughter Kelly got a barista job there. And then I'm thinking, wow, I really want to be a part of this. I would love to be a part of it. And I ended up investing in that bakery. And for 5 years, Avenues Bakery was just an artisan bakery. Then it became a little cafe with the bakery. Then it became a full-on restaurant. I went to Caputo's, learned about cheeses, built the restaurant up at Avenues Bakery and Bistro now. And, that's the magic. The magic is the community. That's where the magic happens, Dalton, because I can have a dream, but without that community around me, I would have never been able to do anything in Salt Lake City.
How do you cultivate that community, though? That's what fascinates me the most. Yeah. How do you cultivate that? Because, look, you can put you anywhere. I mean, we've had many stories about all the restaurants you've opened and the things you've done, which I want to get the ones in the Avenues because that one to me is really fascinating from many perspectives. But how do you cultivate that community? Because you've had it everywhere you go. I mean, I watch people that gravitate to you. Like, what is the things that you believe that create that community, and why do you think people gravitate towards you?
You know what? Well, to answer that question, the first thing that comes to my mind is I consider myself a privileged person, not privileged in the way that I've been given this and given that, privileged in the way that I've been able to see what's being given to me. And so with that privilege comes a responsibility. What am I going to do with it? How do I make this into something? That's how my mind works. So I have a privilege, and I'll use Avenues Bakery. There is the privilege. They're looking for someone that might help them create something more. I have ideas. I go say, I can do this for you. Even if I'm not sure I can't, there's something inside of me that says, yes, you can, Kathie. Do your best. Speak with your heart. Do your best. And so it sort of forms, it's such a privilege. There's a responsibility to accept it. Like I never saw myself asking for things. I need new shoes. I need a new dress. I need a hat. I need a job. I need this or that. I just go find it. If I think I need it, I go find it. And then what do I do with it? I work it. I bring it into who I am. And maybe it just comes out of me like that. I remember when I met Paul Maurer, who owned Avenues Bakery, and I'm standing there talking to him, and I'm telling him, oh, I could help you make this into a restaurant, like a real restaurant. We could have music. You could have wine events, cheese events. I didn't know a thing about cheese. But look what's around me. I find it. I grab onto it, go down there and work with Matt Caputo and a bunch of kids. And here I am, turning 50, and they're teaching me, and I'm receiving it. And it's a privilege that now I have an idea. I want to build something. They're around me. I grab onto them. I learn it, and then I do it. That's the duty part. Once you learn it, or once you know it, you do it. And, you talk about the bistro in the Avenues. I cannot believe that I thought I could do that when I look back on what was accomplished. I just think, who is that woman that thinks she can just pull this off? But I think it's inside of me when I want something that I think will create a community around me. I can feel like I can do anything. And I wonder what that's about. It doesn't really make sense as I say that to you. But it is something inside of me that said, I want that little space in the Avenues. I want that little space for a restaurant. To daily walk by it for months, making phone calls, no return calls, nothing. And then one day to see the door open and then to walk in. It's like I had $25 in my pocket that day. $25 to
right
my
here.
name.
Yes, this right here. So before we get into that, I see you as the hearth, right? The warmth of the community. People come in because they're cold. People come in because they want to be seen. People come in because they want to be heard. They want love. I mean, you listen to a lot of these people. They've lost family members. You've got people coming in, like a lot of the construction guys that have been in and out of prison, and you've got a lot of like drug addicts and homeless people, and all these people that are like, hey, please see me, please love me. And you just witness them all. And every day I see you, I'm like, how are you? Like, how could this is my world. I created this. I stand in such gratitude for everything going on. And you don't put yourself better than anybody else. You keep yourself in this place of like, sometimes my opinion, almost too humble, but just from the perspective of who you are, that you don't see yourself the way other people see you. But everybody just loves you. You know what I mean? I watch the gifts they give to you and the things they do, but it's just because of who you are, not because of something you're trying to get from somebody. You're just constantly giving, and learning also how to balance some of those things off is a lot of the conversations you and I have had. But when you've started your businesses before, like what's the most amount of money you've started a business before?
The most that I've ever had in my pocket when I was starting a business was not much.
I know, and it's important to know.
It's not much. It seems to me, one thing I have learned is that it's not money that makes the business. It's the desire to make the business, and for what reason. And that's why I wonder if I'm not always searching for home, because it's sheer desire. When I decided I was going to build a bistro in the Avenues, sheer desire, how am I going to do this? I knew that I knew people from Avenues Bakery, from 9 South Deli. People have different little projects that I've had around. And so I'm not afraid to ask people. I think I learned that. I don't know where I learned that along the way. But I learned that it's like people say, oh, I would never ask for that. I'd never ask for anything. Well, when I started the bistro, I went to 20 people that I knew from the bakery and said, I want to build a neighborhood restaurant. May I borrow $5, $50, $500, or $5,000? And I promise that I will pay you back. And I'll never forget when I had that idea. I was with my friend Dennis, and he said, how are you going to build a restaurant? You don't have any money. And I said, I have $25, and I need $4,975 by 6 o'clock this evening, so I have to get home.
Yeah, because right at that point in time, you had finally found a location.
That's right.
They agreed to it, not knowing where you stood financially.
That's right.
You had a vision, a plan, you had a purpose, but you had no money.
Right.
Like basically,
No.
you'd had your business, you were taking care of your kids and all these things, and now you're going to move on to something different that's yours, not the bakery at that time.
Right.
And so you move on this place and you tell Dennis, hey, like, this is where I'm at.
Right.
What happens next?
What happens next is he pulls over on the side of the road, and he said, how are you going to do this? I said, I'm going to call everybody I know. He pulls a little cloth wallet out of his pocket, pulls out a check, and writes me a check for $5,000 that day. That was the vision of how I was going to ask. I didn't ask him. He said, here you go. When I met with Jude that evening at 6 o'clock to sign the lease, I had doubled my money. And now I have a restaurant because it was $25 change from the $5,000 that Dennis wrote to me. And so my $25 and the $25 change, I went to bed that night telling myself I doubled my money and I have a restaurant and I have debt. And so the debt was the clincher. And Dennis said, pay me back when you can. I said, I promise I will. And I did. And that day I put a sign on my apartment door at the Villa Andrea right behind the Cathedral of Madeleine. And it said, everything is for sale in apartment 7. Everything. I'm building a neighborhood restaurant. And by noon the next day, all I had left was a couch. Let me think. A couch, a stack of baseball cards, my few pieces of turquoise, some blankets. Everything was gone.
You put it all on the line.
I put it all out there.
You listened. So were you inspired? Like when you decided to start this restaurant, was there something inside of you, which is what I always look for? Was there something inside of you? Was there that voice? Was there that thing that was just driving you? And you're like, I have to do this.
I knew when I walked in and saw Jude, she looked like she was 5 feet tall with long white hair. And here I come in, 5'10", blue jeans, a mess. And she looked like an angel to me. But when I saw the restaurant, and it smelled like grease. It looked terrible. It was dark. I had a flash for a moment of what it was going to look like. And I knew I have to build this, and I can build it. I'd never built a restaurant. I've done cafes, but to build a full-on restaurant with no money. So that afternoon, that was Saturday evening, Sunday afternoon, when all of a sudden I realized, okay, what am I going to do? I slept on the couch in the apartment. I called my landlord, said, my lease is over, I'm ready. Things were just amazingly timely. I moved that couch into the basement, and it was a dirt basement in the back of the bistro. It was really cool. And that's where the couch went. And then I got on the phone, and I called 20 people, and every single one of them loaned me money. And I had $20,000. So I went from going to bed at night on Saturday night with $50 in the bank. And by Sunday night, I had $20,000 promised to me. So there was no turning back.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure what I was doing.
100% coming to this point in time.
I am hook, line, and sinker going to build this. And this is the end of October. The building was gutted. We gutted the building. I had to go buy equipment. I went to everybody I knew and asked, may I borrow a power washer so I could wash off the equipment that needed to be washed off? That was set up by someone who could help me do that. It was like I wasn't afraid to ask because I knew that this was something that we needed and wanted in the avenues, that people missed Avenues Bakery. And I'd been up to Oregon and did a restaurant up there for a couple of years, then came back. It was like, I can see this. It's beautiful. There's light, there's colors, there's so many people in that moment. And then I felt the responsibility of having the privilege. I've got to do it. And I started Post-its all over the place. I didn't know what I was doing. I just put a Post-it up. This is going to be this is going to be this. Walking around in an empty space. And people came, and I hired them, and I never fell behind in my payments. And when we opened up the bistro, this is kind of funny. When we opened it up for a trial run, people were in place. My daughters were there. Kelly was the baker. Amy was the general manager. I had someone that was a chef for me. When we opened it up, I didn't have a menu. I didn't have any money. And so I told people, I walked around to the tables and told them what we were serving. They made the orders. And then when people were trying to pay, I didn't have a POS system. I didn't have my cigar box. I didn't have anything. I said, please come back tomorrow. Or when you come back, you can pay. So we did the same thing the next night, run through. But this time we had at least a menu on a piece of paper. And, 4 entrees, 4 salads, 4 desserts. Boom, that was it. And we just started growing it. It was amazing. Everything was one step at a time. And then perform one step at a time. Do your best. One step at a time. Make it better. And so it was so much fun. But I can remember on New Year's Day, and maybe it was Christmas Day. It was freezing cold outside. I'm sleeping downstairs where there's no heater on the couch. And my daughter came down the back steps with an egg sandwich for me. She said, Mom, this is all I have. I said, this is perfect. And we just kept going. And then when I looked in the bank, there was 2 cents. I was with KeyBank, and there was 2 cents in the bank. And I was downstairs, and I screamed as loud as I could, I need your help. I need your help. And I was talking to Gaia. I need your help. And what I learned from all of this, Dalton, what I learned from all of this is that she will take care of you. If your intentions are in place, it has nothing to do with money. It has everything to do with desire. And so that's been a long time ago. Avenues Bakery was 20-something years ago. There's been Harper's. There was Cafe Milagro. There was Broadway Pharmacy and Market. There was 9th South Delicatessen, where I built something from the ground up. It was just experience after experience. And sometimes I made terrible mistakes. But I never was afraid of my mistakes because I knew that was my learning moment. But I'm also 50 years old. I'm not afraid to fail. I have nobody looking at me that it matters how I look to them. Right. I'm feeling like I have so much power that I raised these 4 daughters. I can do anything. And believe me, I made mistakes, but I don't look back on them. I don't think, I wish I would have done this better or that. I just simply go, I'm doing this better. Not I wish. I will do this better. I will make the change. And it boggles my mind how I could have done the many things that I've done. And
yeah, your stories your experience on life is incredible. Do you guys see why I wanted her on here? Did you just hear all of those little tiny nuggets of wisdom that Kathie just gave us? There's so much there, and I hope you have a notebook and you're writing these things down because there's so many things that you can gather from her journeys and from her wisdom. And just what she just said about you get to that point in time, and I've been there. You get that point in time and you just break down and you're in tears and you're just like, I don't know how we're going to keep going. I don't know what's going to happen here. I know we have to keep going. And you had this, you were talking about this, a handful of things. It's like, I believe that when we get this inspiration, this knowledge, this experience, that's when we listen. That we have to listen.
We do. And I don't think you cannot listen. You cannot deny it. You know, I remember somebody asking me one time, what do you think you're doing? And I thought, everything I want, everything I dream of. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, you're such a creator. You live like, you know, from all the things you've ever told me, I listen to all these different businesses and, you know, restaurants and bakeries and, you know, the pharmacy. But like, you don't get to a point in time where you're like, nope, this is it. I'm going to settle here. I'm going to build these roots here. I'm just going to expand this business and run it for the next 5, 10. You know, you build them and then you flip them and you build them and you flip them. And because it's like you want this new challenge, this new experience, whatever that little lesson is to learn, you learn it. And I'm like, wow, this is pretty remarkable to see. Now, there's the coffee shop in itself is really interesting as well. But I do want to talk about something that I think is magical. And that is because you're so in tune with things. You know, you're so in tune with Source or Mother Gaia or God or whatever we want to call it. But we know there's something bigger, and we both agree on this. You're in the avenues. You're sleeping in the basement, and you start to hear noises late at night. Like this is something to me. It's like I don't even know how to explain this one. So
Yeah, I don't either, really.
this is something that really I think is worth sharing, though.
Do you know that I'm in the basement, and all of a sudden I'm hearing dancing on the floor up above me. I'm hearing women's voices. I'm just like, what in the world?
And this is at night, right?
This is at night, late at night. We didn't even shut down work till 10 o'clock at night. So this is probably by 11 o'clock at night. I go downstairs, get on my sofa. I'm tired, 16-hour day. And I hear this dancing and this music. And I walk out the back door, up the steps, and I go around into my neighbor Balbina's backyard. And I'm thinking, where's this noise coming from? So I go around the side of her home, and I walk in front of her businesses, her beauty shop, her hair shop, and then I'm in front of the bistro. And I had paper on the walls, but I had little cutouts where you could look in. And I looked through there, and there was nothing. Nothing, and I couldn't hear anything at this point. So I make a full circle around the bistro and go back downstairs. I hear nothing until I lay down, and all of a sudden there's music again. What is this? This is a place. And then I have the idea, I'm going to make a speakeasy down here. There's going to be a little bar down here. And I wonder about that. And then I end up, maybe a month later, I go to the Rio Grande. No, before that, a man walks in to the shop. He said, "Are you Kathie?" I said, "Yes." But restaurant's a mess. It's not a restaurant yet. Reconstruction everywhere. And this little man named Dave tells me the story that when he was a little boy, his father used to bring him in to this little mercantile, sit him down in front of the comic magazines, and he would go downstairs and drink whiskey. And then that's when I knew, whoa, wait a minute, this was a speakeasy. I'm building a speakeasy. I go to the Rio Grande and I start.
Digging at this point, though, right?
I start digging.
Like yourself, you're digging at night in the ground. In the ground,
in the back, on the shelf of that metal shelf that goes up like 5 feet, and then there's dirt, packed dirt. And I'm digging because I'd found out earlier that day that there was a hole in the pipe going out to the city. So there's another expense. So I'm digging down there, and I start pulling out these signs, these gold leaf handwritten signs that were a whiskey bottle with whiskey, little tiny whiskey bottle, juicy fruit gum wrapping papers. And we ended up digging many things out of there. And we use those as artifacts in the bistro.
But
how does I don't have answers for that.
I know, but what I love about this though so much, and that is again, like you listen. And when you listen, it leads you. But it's not like this easy thing. I think a lot of people think when they listen, it's going to be like this. It's going to be simple. You're like, I'm inspired. Now I'm going to start this business. And it's just going to be simple and easy.
Right.
But what I've noticed about most people's stories and your story and mine as well, and that is like, it's almost as if it will give you the inspiration, like source will give you this inspiration, and then you follow it, and then you're like, wait a minute, now what? And then all of a sudden there's other breadcrumbs are left, and you follow those, and here you are digging into the walls. You're thinking it's a speakeasy down here, and this place ends up becoming wildly successful, extremely popular, wins multiple awards.
Yes.
And eventually you move on to something else. I believe you go back up to the reservation for a while, correct? Which is where you spend a lot of your time. I feel like giving to the community, getting that spiritual inspiration. Then you typically will come back and build another business, which is where I met you, which is where you're building this coffee shop. But it's this coffee rock shop kind of thing, which sounds, and when I'm saying this, it doesn't look like some hippie place you'd walk into where like people are like, hey, we got these magical crystals. And
No, it's not that at all.
it's not that at all. Kathie and her partner, Scott, her business partner, they found a mine, an actual mine that they will go out to that's here in Utah. And they go out quite a ways, and they will actually pull these rocks out of the ground. No, you're not, and she'll actually take you out there, which is super cool.
Absolutely.
But no electric mining equipment. There's no, like, everything is very much about taking care of the earth. So you have to go out there the old way, which is with basically a hammer and a crowbar and
Chisel in a bucket.
Yeah, chisel in a bucket. And they go out and they pull these beautiful rocks out of the ground. And Scott, her business partner, is, I mean, the two of them are like these geologists, and they know so much about rocks and stone, and such passion for the earth, and such passion for a business, and such passion for the community. And these things, it's ingrained into your business. I mean, your business is about how do we bring back what it was to be a miner, not how it was to be a miner, but having the honoring of where these natural resources come from.
That's
and
right.
It's beautiful.
Do you know, when I got the lease for the rock shop, I actually thought it was going to be a little cafe.
And you had no money in your
tiny.
pocket at this time either,
No,
though.
I never have money. Yeah. So I don't have any money in my pocket.
I know.
And so I'm sleeping on the floor in the back for 3 days thinking, how do I want to do this? I've got this. Am I going to live in the back of this like I did the bistro? How do I want to do this?
There's no, by the way, this place is tiny. There's nowhere for
It's
Kathie to sleep in here anywhere. This reminds me of how Elon Musk said that he would sleep on the floor in his factory. Very different, of course.
Yeah.
But you
This is how I do
you put
it.
everything, you put literally your whole soul and body into whatever you're building.
I do. I feel it. I think once you've seen that flash and you know what's in front of you, like I did with the bistro, that was the first time I'd ever seen literally a flash of what it could be. The whole thing filled with people and employees and dishes banging and, chefs behind the line. It was a flash that I saw it. Then I built it. With this, it was 3 days sleeping there. I couldn't get the flash. I wanted the flash. And I thought, I could put tables here. Lena, who owns Happy Nails right next door to me, I've known her for 20 years. She's like, you can use my place. Sleep in my place. Come sleep in my house. I'm like, no, I've got to do it this way. I'm waiting for something. And sure enough, on that third night, I was laying flat on the floor, comfortably on the floor. I sat up, and the flash was right there in front of me. This is not a cafe. This is a rock shop. And you're going to sell coffee. Coffee. Like the best coffee in town.
Come on.
And what I did, I got up, and here it is. It's interesting. 3:30 in the morning seems to be something for me. But 3:30, I see that. I am so excited. I'm laughing out loud. I'm shaking. I'm laughing. It's going to be a rock shop. I've got 40 buckets of rocks that I've been hauling around for 40 years. And some of them I hadn't taken out of those buckets for years and years. But I'm always hauling my rocks, always collecting them, always loved them. And I couldn't believe it. And then my friend Lauren and his wife Corinne, my dear friend, I'd helped them liquidate their business in Sugar House. But he gave me a mask that I cherish. And I saw that mask and had the idea of the rock shop. And the next morning I hung that mask up. And it's not only a rock shop, but it's a gathering place. And in my mind's eye, and in that flash that I did get, there were a lot of beings in that place. A lot of beings. And we were there. And it was a comfortable place for all of us. And I called my daughters the next day, and I texted my granddaughters. I said, I'm opening up a rock shop. What shall we call it? And my 13-year-old granddaughter at that time, within 2 hours, Harper says, call it From the Ground Up, Oma. From the ground up. And I told them we're going to serve coffee.
And how fascinating is that? Because everything you do has been from the ground up.
And that gives me chills, you saying that right now. How appropriate that name is and what it has become. And it is a neighborhood gathering place. The construction guys have been in and out of that.
Yeah, because in the area, so in Salt Lake City, we've never had any high rises. But what happens is Kathie buys this. So just think about this. Kathie could have built this shop anywhere else. I don't know if it would have had the same movement, I would say, as far as the people coming in and out
I don't
as it
think
does.
it would have.
I don't see that from just sitting there and observing and watching, because I spend a lot of time observing and watching people in there. And I learn a lot. I'm always constantly learning when I'm down there. It's one of my favorite places to go to. And one of the things about that spot is that they're building a high rise that's right next door, literally like almost 3 doors down from a giant high rise that's, what is it, 32
stories.
32 stories. I think it has something like 400 or 500 units in it or something like that. Now, so they're building this place, and there are roughly 600 workers, I would say. Roughly, is that about right?
450.
450, okay.
450.
So my math is way off today.
You're fine.
Which is normal. It's okay. So we got 450 people, and they're coming in and out of the shop. And Kathie begins to know their stories, where they come from, who they are. Their families start to bring people down. And like the stories.
Yeah.
So one of the things, if you're ever in Salt Lake City and you walk in this place, Kathie will know your name pretty much instantly. She'll then begin to introduce you to other people, network you with other people. And that's just what she naturally does, because she's cultivating. She doesn't know she's doing this sometimes. Or maybe you do. But you're cultivating these communities, and you're constantly cultivating people together and letting people see that they're more alike than not. Because you've got anything from businessmen, construction workers, homeless people, musicians,
all
stylists, attorneys, like everybody coming in and out of that place constantly. But everybody says, man, don't you love this place? Oh, we just love Kathie. Like constantly all the time I hear this. And so you build this place from the ground up. You have, again, very little money. You decide you're going to build the rock shop. You've got a bunch of rocks. You've got the best coffee, and you already know that because you got these coffee machines that, you've already done this before in Provo. And so now you're opening this place that was February 14th, I believe is when the doors officially opened.
That's right. It was Valentine's Day. I had a round table that my friend Ginny had given to me. A round table and a couple of tables that I had, and I had an open sign that I had borrowed, pulled the chain, and said, we're open. And that was it. And I had a regular coffee pot. And so it was just, okay, this is what it's going to be. I think there's a key, and that is I truly believe in manifesting. I remember an experience when I was a young woman, and I went up to a McDonald's, and I would never just say, oh, this or that. But I remember the woman, I handed her my money, and the woman said to me, you have the most beautiful eyes. And it hit me so hard that she could give me that compliment, and that I didn't compliment people so much, but that I was going to forevermore compliment people on things that I noticed about them, because it made me feel so good. And when I remember when I was driving out of that parking lot with my little bag from McDonald's, which I try not to eat anymore, but I shouldn't say that. But I remember stopping and thinking, did I make that happen? Or did she see me? Did I make that happen? That was the feeling I had. And then I realized that I needed that compliment. I needed a compliment that day. I needed somebody to see me. I needed something. And it was so powerful that I realized that that was me, not her. I was grateful for her, but that I was the one that needed that, and that I had manifested somebody giving me a compliment that day, because it was such a bad day.
Did you notice something in that?
And so in that, I started manifesting everything I needed. I think I was 26 years old. I hadn't had a child yet. But it was a difficult day, and I realized that I could receive everything I needed if it was the right thing, whether it was a compliment or whether it was money or if I needed a car or a friend or a place to sleep. I realized that I could do that.
So you realized that you had this ability to be able to manifest or create. And I would also say, though, too, you put it out there, you manifested it, but you didn't stop. You continued to
No, I
pull
didn't
things
stop.
in. You weren't just putting your hands out and saying, give me this.
No,
That's not
never.
at all. You literally put in the energy that transmutes into what you're creating. But you said something, and that is that you were looking for a compliment. You were looking for love. You were looking for home. You were looking for community. I want you to know, Kathie, that's what you keep building.
Yeah.
Over and over and over. Because, there's in my company, at 45, we have something that is misfits fit here. Mm-hmm. That's what that was a big thing in our company for a long time. Mm-hmm. Why? Because I'm a misfit. Mm-hmm. My business partner is a misfit. Like we have this misfitness to us, or this place of like not being accepted, or being an odd one, or being weird, or like not the common,
not part of anything.
And so it's interesting is that our traumas or our things that we think that make us something that is unlovable or not accepted or whatever, it's what we end up doing in this world that we bring people to us. Like it's only through those traumas, it's only through what happened to you as a child, it's only through those experiences that you're able to cultivate it so easily, and you're able to bring that in and build these places because you know what it's like to not have that and what people want and need. And so you see things in them that there's no way most people can see, because what it is they're a reflection of you.
Yeah.
Always.
I love that, Dalton. I really do love that. I love being a misfit. People have said, what would you do differently in your life? When I was 50, maybe when I was 20, 30, 40, turning 50, I would have said, I would have done this, I would have done that. I regret this, I regret that. Something magical happened when I would turn 50. And I'd been divorced for a long time. I'd had wonderful people in my life that I was constantly learning. But what I learned, and I can almost feel that moment, don't look back. Don't relive all those mistakes. Fucking don't waste your time. Look forward. Look forward. And it was very clear to me that I was looking forward. Was I searching for a home? Today is the first day in my life that I actually have a home.
I know, congratulations.
I know.
That's so
exciting.
exciting.
It is my home. My daughter has helped make this happen. And they just leveled the ground yesterday. And I thought last night, will I stop searching for a home because now I have one? And I don't think so. I don't think I'm ever going to stop. I think that search is now takes me beyond this earth. That search is beyond the home. It's something else, and I'll never stop. And I wondered if I would, but I only received that answer last night. I had a dream, and someone was looking at me in the dream, and they said, "You know me," and I said, "I don't know you," but I kept looking at this person in my dream, saying, "I don't know you." And this woman said to me, "Yes, you do know me." And I woke up this morning thinking, I know that face. Who was that? I don't know who that was. So there's always this curiosity that I have. There's more. There's so much more.
You're a seeker.
And-
You're a
and
seeker.
I want to see it.
You've always been a seeker. You're a true seeker. You're someone that's cultivating culture and society and changing the norm. And you're always seeking. One of the things I've noticed about you in my own observation in our conversations, it's like I was seeking this answer. I was looking through it through books. I was looking through conversation. I was looking through it. I was seeking something else, and I got a confirmation. And when you don't get the confirmation, you don't get mad. You don't stomp your feet.
No.
You just keep seeking, and eventually, because I watch you in these different transitions all the time, right? You're like, I'm transitioning. I'm like, I'm moving. I'm doing these things, and I'm going to do it even if nobody around me wants me to do it. Like you're doing it again.
Yes.
I'm not excited about it. No one I know is excited about it. And I'm also really excited about it. And it's both, right?
Yeah.
It's not one or the other. And so,
But that's how I feel too, Dalton. I feel like, oh, I don't want to leave this. I love the rock shop. I love the coffee bar. I love the people that are coming in there. And I think, oh, I don't want to leave it. And then I think, they're coming with me. And that's how I'm explaining it to people. When Natea said, I'm going to miss you, I said, you're coming with me.
right.
You know, you are coming with me. Ballet's coming with me. And, you know, like even as the construction people were leaving and saying goodbye to me, that they had been laid off, I was so sad. But I told each one of them, you can't leave. You're always with me.
You're always
and
with me. Yeah.
And so as I move on to the next thing, my heart just gets bigger. I have this feeling sometimes where my chest feels like it swells, like I can feel a swelling. And I've actually had to put my hand on there to see what's going on. But I feel that so often, and I know it's gratitude. It's gratitude that you walked into my life, that Ramon and, you know, Alan and all the construction guys, watch them get on their feet, help people get on their feet. It's an amazing thing to see people come together.
Yeah, I've watched so many things. I've watched you just tell people, hey, don't pay me today. Very similar thing that happened at the Avenues. Pay me, you know, next week or when you get your paycheck or whatever.
Right.
People come in, they pay you. Typically they pay
Always.
you more. There's
Always.
just something about that I find to be amazing. And what else I think is incredible is about how you like met your business partner and like what you're doing there and some of the selfless acts in that relationship. I mean, it's amazing. Like, so here you have a gentleman that you meet. He talks about maybe buying the shop at one point in time, and he ends up getting himself in some, you know, just some troubled situations. And so he's not there for a while, and eventually he doesn't have a whole lot. And so he's stuck in this place. And what do you do next? Like, you're trying to figure out, what am I going to do with this guy? I remember watching this happen
You did.
every day, and I'm like, because I was concerned at first. Because what you do is Kathie has her home above the rock shop. Like, she finds this place. And so her family's also concerned too, and rightfully so, right?
Right.
But
Absolutely.
something inside of you knows that, listen, this guy doesn't have anywhere to go. I see something in him that I don't know if he can see in himself or what you can or what anybody can. And what do?
Celebrate his birthday at the rock shop with the neighbors,
Yeah.
with all of us.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody, let's just wrap our arms around the people that need it. Do you know, it's so funny because I don't think that I own anything, Dalton. I don't think, and that's Navajo way. That's from living with the Navajos. You don't own anything. This land is not our land. If you walk in beauty, that's the way of life, not you buy this and you do this and you get that and that's your identity. No, I really did learn that, and that's probably when I was about 50. It doesn't matter what we have material wealth. It means nothing to me, honestly. When I had the bistro, people were like, why are you giving away this or not charging for that? And my answer is because I can do that. And if I gave away too much and lost, it doesn't matter to me. Then I just build it again. You know, it doesn't, it's a different way of thinking. I don't know how I can describe it, but I remember a young man asking me, why did you give away all the pumpkins from the pumpkin patch to all these kids. And I'm thinking, because they were for the kids. You know, you could have sold them. No. You could have cooked them. No, they're for the kids.
Yeah,
You know, there's something there about knowing that I'm not taking anything with me. So what do I do with what I collect along the way? Stack it up? You know, I'm someone I don't have any debt. I don't have much. You've seen where I live.
Yeah, but you have so much though, right? You have you do have
That's right.
immense amount of wealth. Like you have immense relationships, you have your
Right.
health.
That's my wealth. And I am
ability to grow and
the
build.
wealthiest woman I know. I'm also the luckiest woman I know that I get to do whatever I want. But all of that makes me so full of gratitude. There's no room, you know, for the this and that's or the has-beens, you know.
I mean, Kathie, you eventually, like, you take Scott into your place. You guys learn to, like, grow and
look what happened.
I mean, so just so the listeners know, like, Kathie's business partner, which I was getting to in a second ago, Kathie's business partner goes through some challenging times, doesn't have a whole lot. And so Kathie's like, listen, you can live with me. And it was supposed to be a very short period of time. And eventually this relationship forms. When I say relationship, I mean a business relationship. Right. But they form this relationship. They start to go out and they're mining and they're finding all these things. And Scott is going through his own healing like we all are constantly. But he starts to find it more in the coffee shop. And a place where he's like, I don't really want to serve coffee. We're only going to do rocks. Well, now he's like, well, we definitely need the coffee here. And we need this
Isn't
here.
that
And
so funny?
all of a sudden, someone that was kind of very much stayed to himself, you know, very much of an introvert, you know, looking also for family as well, looking for home. Right. All of a sudden, like, you see his magic in everything he does, from the way that he's rebuilt the shop, to the stones that he brings in, to the love that he gives, to the way that he takes care of the neighborhood and knows everybody. And, like, he just becomes part, he becomes part of that culture.
That is my wealth, that I got to be a part of that. That is my wealth when you say that, because if you know East Broadway, it's full of graffiti, garbage. It's been horrible. The construction project's been going on. Homelessness in our area is the worst. Our area has the worst crime in all of Salt Lake. Somebody from the health department, Maddie, told me this. He said, there have been murders there. Like, what the hell? Really? But the bottom line is, now you look at Broadway. That's our block right there. There is no graffiti. Why? Because Scott's been out there every day spray painting it so we don't have graffiti on our signs for our businesses. Picking up all the garbage. He did a truckload of garbage. Picking that up. But you look at it right now, it looks better.
It does.
It looks cleaner.
It does.
And that isn't because somebody from the city came and did it. It's because Scott became immersed in a community that he knows he's loved. He's feeling like he wants to give back. And so he does this. And that's not me. That's not me doing that. That's him getting something, that whatever that is.
I just saw such a beautiful friendship form through all of that. And it's been
wonderful.
It's been incredible to watch. And then again, it goes back to that inspiration. It goes back to what you feel, and you feel it. And I mean,
it's like manifesting.
Like, you're a tough woman at the same time. Like, it's not like you're not a pushover. You listen, but no one's going to push. Like, you're not like someone's going to take advantage of. Not on any level. So it's not like someone was ever trying to take advantage of you. Like, Scott definitely wasn't trying to do that. But from the outside, it could look that way.
Right.
But you just were like, I don't care what people think. I don't care what they see. I don't. This is what I'm going to do, and what you have done. And it's turned out to be something that it's just pretty unexplainable.
It is.
I don't even know how to put it into words half the time.
I don't even know how to do that myself. I think about, like, wanting this little rock shop, this little coffee bar to be great, wanting it to look good. And so manifesting that, and that's where people come around and bring their goodness in. You know, it's really something.
It's really amazing. Well, First, I just want to say I appreciate you allowing me just to come and pour into that space and sit there and enjoy the coffee and the rocks and meet new people and just what you have curated for the community. It means a lot to me, and it means a lot for the lessons you have taught me and shown me why you have been here in Salt Lake City. And the lessons, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, cool. That's how you would do that. Like, because you have this level of wisdom, not knowledge. You have a lot of knowledge, but you have wisdom because you've gained it. You've gained it on your path. And so thank you for sharing that. If there's some wisdom that you could give entrepreneurs, because you one time sat in front of a bank.
Yes.
What bank was that?
That was all of the bank presidents in the state of Utah for a Goldman Sachs presentation.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
that's just another
we don't
story.
have a long time for that, unfortunately. But what would be the information that you would give business owners right now to be able to cultivate a culture and to be able to cultivate a community, more importantly?
I think, how much do you desire what it is in here? How much do you desire? Would you give your last dime? Would you give a meal? Would you give all of yourself to that dream that you have? Because you will be successful if you do. If it's a righteous desire.
How do you determine what's a righteous desire and what's not?
I think it's in who you are. What is your righteous desire? What is your righteous desire? And when you achieve that, what do you do next? I think you know. And so for me, what is my desire? To build this little rock shop with a coffee bar and to make sure everybody knows that it's there. And if they would like a really good cup of coffee, come on over. And if you want to see Utah rocks, if you want to see rocks in their rare form, nothing made in China, celebrating Utah, celebrating the old way of mining, but learning that there's a new way to mine. And it's for your children so that they learn how to take better care of the earth. That desire in me is what made all this happen. That was my desire. Like, get your kids out of the phone. Go out into the wilderness. Look at a snake. Never thought I would.
Yeah, snakes and scorpions and all kinds of things, right?
All kinds of things. But it's that desire inside of us that it's so big that it's busting out of us. I don't need to eat. I don't need to sleep. I'll work for it. And you can only do it for so long, but you're willing to take it to that point. And I think that, the bistro was my dream. It all came together, the chickens, the gardens, the beehives, the great food, the great people, the home. But this little rock shop really seems to, because it reaches further into my desire for kids to come on in and pick little rocks. For people to know that there isn't one rock in here that looks like another rock. They're all individual.
That's very true.
There's no made in China. Scott and I, the goal is to bring mining back in a new way. And so that's why we have 2 mines in the West Desert.
Yeah, it's so cool.
It's crazy how this has grown.
Also, just for the listeners, if you're in Utah or you're in the area, 4 times a year, Kathie and her business partner, Scott, they take people out to the mine. I believe it's like $200 or something like that. You can join the club and you can take your family out there and spend the day and, learn how to respect the earth and pull these beautiful stones out of the earth. And it's an experience worth having for sure. What's the one thing you want to be remembered for? Like, when all's said and done, you've done so many different things. What is the legacy you leave behind to your grandkids, to your community, to your daughters?
Love yourself, no matter what. No matter who you are, where you've been, love yourself. Treat yourself well.
I love that.
Thank you, Dalton.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So much beautiful wisdom today. So much lessons, so many things. At first you build it, then they come. Listening to inspiration. Like, these are the things that I think are really important because you're able to dig in deeper. You're not looking at it from spreadsheets. You're not looking at it from business books or college or any of these things because you didn't do any of those things. Right. Mm-hmm. But you continue just to keep digging. I mean, like digging and bringing up these new stones of wisdom that you can share with everybody. So thank you again for taking the time out of your day. Thank you for being you. Thank you for listening. And thank you so much for letting me into your heart and into your community, and just for coming here and giving your love and your wisdom and your, just you to the community. So I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
And I have deep love in my heart for you. So thank you again, Kathie.
I do for you.
All right.
Thank you.